Thank you for taking some time to tune in to Fearless Flipping today. Thank you for taking time to invest in yourself. And I am excited for you because if you're new to this industry, or if you're thinking about getting into this industry, this might be the #1 video that you need to listen to or watch, whether you're on the podcast or the YouTube channel, because Shaun Magner is going to dive in deep on how to start and build a real estate investing company when you've got a full-time job. Shaun's been doing this for many years. He's had a full-time job the entire time. Most of you are going to be in that position. Michael Zuber was in that position. Heck, he was doing it for 14 years until he became full-time real estate investing, and that was with a huge portfolio. Shaun is the same way. He's doing a ton of deals every single year while having a full-time job. So you need to listen into this and be taking notes, because this could be that one video, that one piece of advice that helps you jumpstart or take your career in real estate investing to the next level. All right, back at it with Shaun Magner from Baltimore, Maryland. And if you missed the first episode, make sure to go back and check out, just listen to what Shaun has to say, not only about his story, but he's got some really great nuggets in there too about how you can be marketing for absolutely free, taking bites out of this real estate investing process. And so I'm just excited now to get super laser focused with you, Shaun, on one of your favorite things to talk about, which is doing real estate investing part-time while having a full-time job. So let's talk first of all, honestly, I want to first of all know why, as a very successful real estate investor, how come not just go full-time with it?
Yeah, that's a good question. And quite honestly, part of it is that it's kind of a silo, right? There's a little island mentality, and that you're on your own for most of the time, right? If I'm looking at houses, I'm doing my own direct mail campaigns, I'm in my office, I'm really on my own. I'm networking when I'm at networking events, I'm socializing, but I kind of missed the interaction, right? And I kind of missed getting out there and visiting customers and helping to build something just bigger than myself. And that's what I do with my business as well. But I just missed it. I really did. The kind of the thrill of closing the deal, right? Um, I just kind of missed it, man. I tell you, I took a couple of years off, as I mentioned, and while I enjoyed that freedom, it was wonderful. I kind of got lazy. I did. I kind of got lazy, and I can admit that. So I'm happy to be back to work. I love it. I missed it.
You're like me. If I'm idle, I get bored.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. And it was bad. I was like, oh, another episode of Netflix, sure. you know,
That doesn't sound too bad to me.
nah,
Uh, no, I'm messing with you. I can get into that downward spiral too,
sure.
especially with Game of Thrones and things like
Oh
that. So,
yeah.
all right. So before we start getting too far off topic into Netflix, let's talk about how you really have just gotten delegation down. Like, what is it that especially that you feel like you can teach to some of our listeners today that they can delegate so that they have more time to do what they love?
That's a great word, delegation. So think about this. I understand it and I totally get it. And it's hard to kind of relieve or to kind of relinquish some of the control, right? It's your baby. You're building a business, and if nobody can build your business and work your business as well as you can, right? Because they don't have the passion for it or whatever the reason is in your mind. That's probably not true, right? So delegate, just relinquish some of the control. And um, there's a saying, done is better than perfect. And a lot of that holds true in this business, right? I mean, in any business, it really does. So I am a firm believer in delegating. And when I talk about delegating, I mean, as far as finding deals, sure, I do my own direct mail campaigns. I've ran bandit sign campaigns. I network like a madman. But I let wholesalers and realtors bring me deals. And a lot of what I do is flip houses and buy and hold, right? I don't do as much wholesaling as some other guys. I do some wholesaling, but it's not the primary focus of my business. Because marketing, wholesaling is a whole nother business, really. I mean, it takes an awful lot to run a big wholesaling business. Takes a lot. So I delegate my lead sourcing, right? I delegate my construction. I don't manage these projects myself. I'm not a self GC, right? I don't hire the trades. I mean, I have handymen that do work for me here and there. But when I'm remodeling a house, I hire a general contractor. I hire guys that I could essentially just hand the keys and say, call me when it's done. Now, of course, I don't do that, but I could. I've worked with the same number of guys over many flips and many rehabs, flips and rentals. And I really could just hand them the keys and say, call me when it's done. So I think that's pretty important. When it is done and I list it, I don't list it myself because I'm not a licensed agent, and I don't list it on one of these list source sites that I could list a flip for myself. I'm sorry, I could list a flip myself. I use a realtor. It's what they do. I don't have time to be showing the houses. I don't have time to coordinate showings. I leave it to them, right? And I negotiate with them because I'm going to do a certain number of deals a year with them, and I negotiate their terms down a little bit to help me. Um, and then let's say that it's a rental. I hire out tenant placement because I think tenant placement is more art than it is science. You know, property management is different than tenant management, in my opinion. They do get grouped in together a lot, but tenant placement is really, really an art because you're dealing with personalities and emotions. Property management, it's pretty science, right? The roof's leaking, you better address that thing, right? So it's pretty cut and dry. So I delegate the tenant placement. The one thing I don't outsource is property management. I do manage my own property. So once a tenant is in place, and I get the ultimate say in the tenant in that, but once tenants are in place, I do self-manage. And the reason for that is I did not want to relinquish the education that I knew was going to come with managing the property. I wanted to better understand the way of the world in Baltimore investing, and then also my goal, which I talked about in our last podcast, in our last episode, and I'll talk about it again. But my goals make my decisions for me, and my goal was to be able to leave my W-2 job. I know the irony there. I went back, but my goal was to not have to rely on it. And if I gave that property management up, I was going to give up some of the cash flow, and that would have just prolonged my goal, right? And so, but that's it, man. I just delegate. I really do.
I want to come back to a couple of those things there. I'm taking some notes over here. I hope everyone else is taking notes too, because you just gave a lot of great overview. I want to dive in deep with a couple of these now. So the first thing I love that you said was you let other people bring you deals. So the number one thing I just need everyone to understand right now, as they're listening to this follow-up question I'm going to ask from you, is do you want to be the person to get the deals or to give the deals? And just like what you said, wholesaling is a completely different business. So if you feel like you're good at going out there and finding deals, maybe wholesaling is for you. But guys like you and I also have a full-time job. I'm looking at this and I'm saying, I don't want to be out there finding deals. So I would rather have agents, wholesalers, marketing campaigns bringing me deals. So can you just talk about for 1 second how your goals allow you to delegate more so than maybe a wholesaler's goals?
Sure thing. So wholesaling, and don't get me wrong, I've got some really good buddies that do that wholesale at a very high level, make a lot of money. They're brilliant at what they do. They've got incredible systems in place, but it's a whole different business. They also do some flips and they also hold some rentals. Their primary business is wholesaling, and it's just a different animal. It really is. Now, to your question, what are some of the things that what are some of the things that I do? You know what? Back up. Ask that question again if you could.
Yeah, no, for sure. It just really the big deal or the big difference is how are you able to delegate, or how are you able to look at your strategy as one of delegation versus maybe someone that's wholesaling? Do you feel like they're going to be able to delegate like you do?
Gotcha. Now, the answer to that I would say is probably not, because to your point a minute ago, those wholesalers need to know their numbers, just like a rehabber, just like a landlord. They need to know their numbers so that when they're putting those deals out there, they're putting their assignment markup on it, and they're sending that deal out to their buyers list. They need to know that it's still a deal, and they're going to be able to sell that thing, right? And so they've got to know their numbers. They also have to. I mean, they've got to be marketing just constantly, attending auctions, networking, live networking events to promote their deals. I mean, there's a lot of things they need to be, or active on social media to promote their deals, and have a strong web presence. There's not a lot of delegation there. I mean, you've got to get to the seller. You've got to get to the end, or the seller, right? You've got to get to them if you're a wholesaler. If you're in our shoes as a rehabber and or a landlord, buy and hold or flipping, I just need to know that guy, right? I need to know him, and I need to know a bunch of him. That's it. I don't need to know every seller, so I don't have to be tracking my systems and my lead generations and where each call's coming in from. And I think it's pretty cool what they do. I mean, if you think about it, if you can send out 10 different marketing campaigns with 10 different phone numbers, and you can track which numbers are producing the most results, and then you can reassign your funds from, if this number's not ringing and this number's ringing off the hook, let's take the funds from there and over here. I get that. That's pretty cool. And those KPIs are fun to track, but that's a whole different business. And it's not one that I'm interested in. I don't have time for that because I have a full-time job.
So what you're saying is it's a great business. It can make you a lot of money. The great thing about wholesaling as well is you don't have to have any money, but you do have to have time. You do have to have that knack to be able to find the deals as well. Is that right?
Absolutely. And you've got to know how to run those numbers. You've got to know how to run a repair estimator and know what the rehab's going to cost, what the ARVs are, what the comps look like. And yeah, wholesaling is not for the faint of heart, but it is, you're right. It is low risk and low cost of entry.
Now you just mentioned some things, some tasks that to me, being in this for a little bit of time, I've heard some people that do delegate and hire out people to, be by the computers, to be looking up deals, to be checking out ARVs, comps. Is that something that you do?
To some degree, yes. But not a lot of it, quite honestly. So what I mentioned earlier, when I keep mentioning the working with realtors, right? Attending networking events and you work with a realtor. I don't want to just be on every realtor's list. I want realtors doing work for me, right? I don't want them to say, Shaun, here's a list of every house that's for sale now in Baltimore. That's going to do me nothing, right? That's doing me a disservice. I don't have time for that. I want a deal to come through that looks like 123 Main Street. Shaun, check this house out. It's been on the market for 90 days, might be ready for a price correction. It's listed at 100, ARV is 300, and here are the comps to support that. I'll review those comps and I'll confirm those numbers. But I'm not doing an awful lot of running comps because I'm not finding I don't have to really, because I'll run comps on wholesale deals, but most of the wholesalers that I've worked with, I've kind of told them my buying criteria and my needs, and I want those leads to come with comps.
So that's a great point right there, is that these realtors, they get paid to sell you a home, to sell your home. And so they'll do, some of them, when they see the actual, I guess you could say, advantage of working with an investor, because not everyone's going to, they'll go to work for you. So what are some ways that you found you were able to either find those realtors or find realtors maybe that weren't, I guess you could say, used to working with investors, and paint that picture for them of what it would look like to go to work for you?
Sure thing. Great question. Two-part question. So the first one, where do I find them? If you attend any networking event, there's an agent in the room, odds are they're familiar with investment real estate, not just retail real estate. If they're attending a networking event for real estate investing, they're probably familiar. So they're working with investors to some degree. Those that are not, though, I'll oftentimes contact, and I've done this before, I'll contact, just cold call local brokers, whether it's a national company that we're all familiar with or a local mom and pop down the street, and ask to speak with somebody in the office that's familiar with investment real estate. When I get that person on the phone, that conversation goes in the direction that it's just going to go in, like I would if I was at a networking event. If there's nobody there that's familiar with investment real estate, I'll take the opportunity to ask for somebody who's young and energetic and eager, right? Who wants to build a book of business. Who is that in your office? And I'll get on the phone with this person. I'll coordinate a time to grab coffee and sit down and just explain to them the benefits of working with an investor, the repeat business, the fact that you're not going to be out just showing homes on Sundays and evenings, and you're not going to be showing me around. In fact, I don't like going to houses with realtors, right? I like to go on my own if I can, and most times I can. But that's really it. I want somebody who's, if they don't know anything about investment real estate and they're an agent, I want somebody who's young and eager and coachable. That's a big one, right? And they can just take my buying criteria and I lay it out there. Here's what I'm looking for very specifically. I like this geography. I like this type of an all-in price. I'll teach them about using a general contractor and a hard money lender and how those two numbers can impact the profitability of a deal. I will teach them those things. Because if somebody's using cash and they're self-GCing, there's a whole different profit spread there, right? And so those are things that I could do and just take some time to educate them. But quite honestly, anymore, real estate investing has become such a cool, shiny thing that a lot of realtors are familiar with it to some degree. And so there's not a whole heck of a lot of coaching that has to happen anymore. But for a number of years there, I was meeting with new people that were not very familiar and just kind of peeling back the curtain a little bit for them.
How many realtors do you feel like you've got to get on your team until you find that one that like, hey, this is a gem. This one's going to go to work for me?
It's a great question. I think of the few gems that I have right now and how many it took to get there. I would probably say maybe a dozen or so, maybe to find a good one, or maybe 8 to 10 to 12, somewhere in that range. And you might find two studs right out of the gate, somebody that's just awesome. But there are some people that just don't listen to my buying criteria needs, and they have me just doing a lot of work when they send me a massive list, and I'm quickly unsubscribing.
All right. So now I'm thinking about the person who's listening right now that's saying, Shaun, I've heard that I need to go out and get my real estate license. It's going to make me more money. Um, are you saying that they should not get their real estate license? Number one. Number two, does that, if they do decide to get their real estate license, does it affect their opportunity to work with real estate agents?
Two good questions. The first question to your first question is no, not at all. That's not what I'm saying whatsoever. There's a lot of benefit to being licensed. Just having access to local MLS is huge. Being a licensed agent for 3 years, or depending on the state, I think this is a national thing, but being licensed for a number of years and then being able to become a broker and start your own little brokerage firm, if that's your goal, that's awesome. Or start your team underneath of a local broker, that's awesome. Um, and there's to say you're a real estate investor is really casting a wide net, right? There's a lot of different things that can be. And so not at all. I think I encourage people to get their license, and especially in the beginning, because in the beginning you've got a lot of time, right? You're not inundated. You've got time to devote to spending online classes or attending evening classes in person. And I think it's great to get your license. I'm personally not licensed, but I think I've considered it a number of times, but it's just I think it's smart to get it. It's not necessary though. So Kyle, the second part of your question was if you have a license, if you are licensed, how can it affect being, working with other agents or just becoming a real estate investor yourself? Really, it doesn't matter whatsoever. I mean, you can have a license and have other agents sending you deals on the front side. If you're going to do your own wholesale or your own marketing to do some wholesaling, you do need to just disclose with the seller that you are licensed. But that's a very simple thing. Hey, just so you know, I have to disclose this. I am technically a licensed agent, but I'm doing this transaction is not for that. This is my real estate investing business, and that's as simple as it needs to be. On the backside, though, the benefit to being licensed is there are some cost savings. If you so choose to list the house yourself, you can save on some of those commission fees. There's definite pros to it. I see way more pros than cons, except for the time commitment in the beginning to actually getting licensed.
That's awesome. Okay. So what was the number one thing that was in the beginning, maybe tough for you to delegate? Like what you mentioned there in the beginning, relinquishing control.
Mm-hmm.
And once you did delegate it, you saw the magic of it.
I'm going to bring that back to tenant placement. Tenant placement was it. I mean, I was banging my head against the wall with some of these tenant screenings because I was getting confusing information from some tenants. Some things that I would get from one tenant would contradict the previous thing they provided me, right? And I was just kind of hitting a wall with that. And I was reaching out to my network and asking for recommendations. And hey, what would you do in this case? This utility bill does not align up with the address on her lease or her driver's license. What's the story here? What does that mean? And I was asking those questions regularly. And quite honestly, it was time consuming. So when I learned about tenant placement, that there are people that just place tenants for you, that's all they do, just tenant placement. I thought, I'm going to look into this. And sure enough, you're paying that person for their intuition, their gut, right? I mean, it's a science, but they pick up on those things that I might not otherwise, that I just think is normal. I might let something slip through the gates that I hadn't before. And that hurt me one time. So all it took was one. And I thought, no, that was dumb. Depending on where you are, depending on the type of home and the type of tenant candidate that you're working with, if you're out in the suburbs and a certain demographic of folk with decent credit scores and they care about their credit and they're responsible about paying their bills, that's a different type of person than some others. And I have a mixed bag of my portfolio. And so some properties are just different animals to place for. But anyway, that said, I think that's the biggest one. The delegation that meant the most to me was tenant placement, without a doubt.
The reason I ask this question is I struggle with this too. Like literally for me, it's a daily struggle to think even the smallest task. I know that I could teach this to someone, but there's that pushback in our mind of like, I got to pay someone and I could just knock this out in 20 minutes, but that stuff adds up. And so when you suddenly have 20 minutes here, 20 minutes there, 20 minutes in the middle of the day, you're looking at, you just had an hour of something. And that's where I just find that some of the most successful people have evaluated what their hour pays them. If you're worth, $45 an hour and you hire someone to do that for $15 an hour, not only are you actually making $30 for free essentially on your own, but you also have gotten that opportunity to go out and find more deals to do those money-making activities. Is that what you've found that it's
That's
allowed you to do?
That's exactly right. I mean, you're exactly right. I don't have time to become the expert in every single avenue of real estate investing. As I mentioned earlier, it's a big wide cast net. To say you're an investor can mean a lot of things. You can own trailer parks or own strip malls or whatever, right? And subsidized single family houses or multifamily complexes or whatever. So to be an expert in everything, I mean, that's unrealistic. And so I think it's important to just relinquish some of the control. And I understand the difficulty, especially being new. I mean, it's like, man, nobody can do what I'm trying to do as well as I'm going to do it. It's just not the case. And maybe it is to some degree, but there is something to be said about addition by subtraction, right? So you give up a couple things and you get some time freedom back. What's your time worth? As you made mention a minute ago. You've probably read Tim Ferriss's 4-Hour Work Week, a popular book from years ago. And that book was the first time I was ever introduced to virtual assistants. That's somebody that can just do tasks that I don't want to do for almost literally in some cases pennies on the dollar. That's a great thing to implement into your business if you're able to relinquish that control.
That's awesome. I need to work on that myself. And I'm sure a lot of people listening right now
I think
need
we
to
all
work on
do.
that. And I just want to wrap up by saying, I loved right there from the beginning what you said about let your delegation be matched by what your goals are. And so if you're sitting here and you're listening to this and you're thinking to yourself, but I love going out and doing the work, and I'm okay with not, building an empire because I've got a huge team, by all means, go do that. But if you want to build an empire and if you want to build something bigger than yourself, like what Shaun is talking about, you probably heard him say that, you're going to have to give up and relinquish control, and you got to reevaluate your goals. So always think about, is your goal to learn? Is your goal to do the task? Or is your goal to build something bigger than yourself? Because it's those actions versus the ultimate goal that you really have to determine, where is my time needed the most. So Shaun, thank you so much for your time, man.
Well said.
Especially here, yeah, with you, sharing all the way from Baltimore. Is there anything else in regards to delegation that you want to share with our listeners before we go?
No, I think we hit the big points. I mean, again, no, I think delegating is just get comfortable being uncomfortable. That's all. I mean, it takes a time, and it's not going to happen overnight. And that pertains to delegation, especially. You're giving up control, and just be comfortable being uncomfortable. That's the biggest tip I can give.
That's awesome. Okay, Shaun. So ShaunMagner.com. That's SHAUN Magner, MAGNER.com. That's how you can connect with him. And that's also how you can take advantage of his special offer. Shaun is a coach and usually gets paid for it. But for our listeners here, Fearless Flippers, listen to what Shaun has to offer.
So that's it, guys. So if you find me on social media, Twitter is at spacesideacq.com, or yeah, spacesideacq.com. Twitter is just spacesideacq. On Facebook or Instagram, you can find me at Shaun Magner. You can also go to, as Kyle mentioned, at ShaunMagner.com. Go to the contact, fill in your information, and just type in Fearless Flipping into the comments section for a free 30-minute consultation or just a one-on-one coaching call with me directly.
Awesome. And do us a favor and spell Spaceside for us.
That's SPEYSIDEACQ, Spaceside Acquisitions.
Perfect. Shaun, you are the man. Thank you so much for your time. And remember, Fearless Flippers, it's your time to conquer real estate investing. We'll talk to you next time.
Delegation is the name of the game. I can't stress that enough, and I can't stress enough how much I'm working on that. I have a tough time relinquishing control, like Shaun talked about. It's one of those things that you could probably hear with what I was saying with him is a struggle. It's one of those topics that delegation is something that you need to do if you want to build something big. I want to build something big. Sometimes I think I'm the only one that can do it as well as I do it. And whether that's the truth or not, it's definitely not. It needs to be something that we get over. So if you love this episode today, definitely make sure to take advantage of Shaun's offer. Go to our show notes, fearlessflipping.com/Shaun Magner, or down below on the YouTube channel. If you're watching down below on YouTube right now, you can just go ahead and click on the link down there, and you'll be taken right to our show notes, which can take you to Shaun's site, and you can take advantage of his coaching option. It's your time to go out and conquer real estate investing. We'll talk to you later.